So excited to have you here.
Thank you.
I think this is amazing. We've known each other for quite some time now.
Yep.
Actually, I was thinking about like how we first met. And I met you because you were the first person to sell me my first Lamborghini.
That's right. Yeah.
And I was like, how did I find Grant? And it's funny because I've been filming every week with Peter Saddington.
Mm-hmm. Who I've also sold a Lambo to.
Yes,
the
exactly.
Bitcoin Lambo.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I remember after Peter bought his car, he was like, hey, talk to Grant because this is who I bought my car from. And that's actually how I called you. It's because Peter gave me your number.
That sounds correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so funny because it's such a small world and somehow like we all come full circle.
Yeah. And Danny as well, his previous C63.
Yeah.
He was so against the matte paint. He's like, I don't know, it's going to chip, it's going to scratch. I'm like, dude, trust me, this is what you want.
Yeah.
And yeah, we got that car for him, which is cool. So
you were a sales guy at Lamborghini.
Yep.
For a long time.
Lamborghini, McLaren, Aston Martin, Rolls Royce, yeah.
And now you're at Porsche.
That's right.
But let's start at Lamborghini. So when I met you, you were at the dealership there, and you were selling. I don't know. I'm going to say you were selling a lot of cars.
I was, yeah. It was a pretty quick out the gate sort of elevation, from a sales perspective. But that was a big decision for me to get back into the automotive industry.
What were you doing before Lamborghini?
So once upon a time, circa 2006, I was selling Toyotas in East Tennessee.
Okay.
And fun fact, I actually got fired from that job. The GM fired me. He just said, your work ethic, it's not good, and you're lazy. So I was a bad salesperson for a while.
And was he right?
He was right. Yeah.
So you deserve to be fired.
Yeah. And we're friends on Facebook now. And he goes, hey, I'm glad you're doing good. But going through different dealerships, hopping around, and finally landed at a BMW store and sold this one guy who's now a really great friend of mine. He was one of the groomsmen in my wedding. Sold him 5 BMWs. He tried to hire me every time. He worked for a big Fortune 15 company. So I took a 3-year hiatus from the car business and did technology and connected devices for this company. And I was at a car show in Atlanta. I transferred down here. I'd gotten this pilot role that was really successful, and things were going great. Had 401k and all these benefits, and this big employer that just kind of takes care of everything. They don't want you to leave. I was at a car show, made some friends there, and one of the guys was like, so what are you doing now? And I told him, and I was like, yeah, I thought about getting back in the car business, but I'd only get back into it if I could like sell Lamborghinis like the car you have. He's like, oh, you want a job? I'll get you a job. And I'm like, tell me more. And that's how it all happened. It was kind of an accident.
Really?
Yeah.
And what year was that?
That was 2015.
Okay, so I met you 2017 maybe.
Yep.
Something around that time. So what was your experience like selling Lamborghinis? Because the thing about selling Lamborghinis is that you have to deal with the people that buy Lamborghinis.
Yes, I came to learn that. And it was going back to, selling a bunch of cars. I knew that going back into this industry, especially on 100% commission, I had to make it. Like I had to make it. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. Like my mom even called me and was like, "Are you crazy? You're quitting your good job?
Yeah.
What are they paying you?" I was like, 100% commission. Oh my gosh! Like she was freaking out. Well, long story short, it worked out, but it wasn't easy. It was a challenge, and yeah, dealing with the egos of the exotic car industry is something that you have to understand and then adapt to, because the personalities couldn't be more different than any other industry.
Because in Atlanta, there are a lot of rappers, musicians, athletes, and they all buy Lamborghinis.
Yes.
Some McLarens, but really Lamborghini is the one that people really gravitate to, especially if it's going to be your first. That's kind of what people really want.
Yeah,
right?
It's the personal trophy, right? It's like, hey, I've accomplished something. I'm going to reward myself. Might as well be a Lamborghini.
And then once you get into the Lamborghini life, you're like, well, there's other options out there. And you start exploring a little bit and you get a little more creative in what you buy.
Yes.
But Lamborghini is the one that tells the world, like, fuck you.
Yeah.
I made it. That's the
basically, yeah. And, I've always loved Lamborghini. And, I got a promotion pretty quick in. They made me consignment manager. So I did that for a while. And then I was offered the McLaren brand manager position. And it was so funny because my GM at the time, he came to me, hey, we're going to give you the McLaren brand manager position. And I was like, but I want to be the Lamborghini brand manager. But I grew to really love the cars. I still say this about McLaren. It's the car you want to drive, not the one you want to own.
Yeah.
But
I think there are a lot of guys out there that relate to that.
there's some good ones though. But there's also some horror stories as well. But yeah, it's a fascinating world, and the cars are really what drives me. That's my passion. That's what I enjoy. And if it wasn't for that, then I probably wouldn't do it.
I mean, for guys who've worked their entire lives and finally are able to buy maybe something that they've always dreamed of, and to be a part of that, it must feel really fulfilling.
Well, I mean, you're that guy, right?
I remember when we first brought our Lamborghini home, we put it in the garage, and my wife and I were sitting on the floor of the garage looking at it. And I was like, oh, was I stupid? Did I really need to buy this? And she's like, are you going to return it? I'm like, no. She's like, then shut the fuck up. Enjoy it. Like, it is what it is at this point.
And that was a crazy, kind of, because you almost didn't do it. If I remember correctly, you were like, I don't know, the numbers aren't working. And I finally went back to my my manager at the time. And, anytime you go back and you're like, hey, he's not going to do it at that number over and over again, there's a little bit of anxiety on his end.
I mean, it was the first time we ever tried to purchase a car that expensive. I mean, we had an i8 before, but it's not the same level.
It's not.
And then you start contacting insurance companies, and the insurance companies are like, well, we don't really insure that, because in Georgia, it's not easy to insure a Lamborghini. State Farm is
not much anymore.
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then you get kind of discouraged, like, okay, like maybe this is a bigger deal than I thought. When I walked in, I thought we were just buying a car.
Yeah.
But then you find out there's so much behind it.
There is.
And I'm like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do it. But somehow you were very good at your job, because you convinced me. You made me feel like I had to buy it.
Well, and I even met you in Alpharetta at the food truck festival with the paperwork.
That's true.
With my wife. My wife was with me. And I'm like, hey, I'll bring you the paperwork right now. Where are you at? Well, I'm at the food truck festival. I'll be there.
That's right. We're like, you need to sign these documents to make it official.
Yeah.
And we were at the food truck festival. It was a food truck art festival. One of these things.
One of those, yeah.
And you showed up and you had the paperwork. And I think we signed the paperwork to purchase a Lamborghini on the side of a food truck.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Maybe the first time a Lamborghini has ever been sold on a food truck.
That was a beautiful car too.
I love that car.
And the other funny story is I actually sold that car new as well. I mean, the guy didn't put that many miles on it, but did a full PPF, job on it. And he ended up buying another Lamborghini. So it's like, I knew the car. I knew how well cared for it was. And then, you go on all those rallies. I see the wrap on the car. I'm like, it doesn't even look like the same car anymore.
Yeah, I demolished that car. But that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to buy it to drive it. And I think I was driving almost every day. I would take it everywhere, anywhere. And that's why I think people started following my socials.
Yeah.
Because they saw like, bro, this guy just bought a car. He's taking it literally everywhere.
Yeah, as you should.
I mean, that's what you should do, right?
Yeah.
But I'm getting older. I'm like, oh man, maybe I would have not put so many miles on it. You start to like reflect a little bit, like after the fact.
Yeah, we've done the math. I mean, the 2,000 mile car versus the 10,000 mile car after 2 years. I mean, that difference, those several $1,000s, let's call it.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's worth the enjoyment of driving it.
It's miles per miles.
Yeah, exactly.
So that was fun. I don't know when I'll get back into it again. That one got totaled. It got into a car accident on a rally, and the insurance company was a mess. Just dealing with the insurance companies, trying to figure out how to do it, and they decided that they didn't want to fix it. And I feel like it was totally repairable.
Wow.
But they wouldn't, because the engine had moved maybe, I mean, you're talking millimeters, but it moved. And they were like, if it moved, what if we put it back and it's not the same?
Was it like frame damage?
The frame had just bended a little bit and it shifted. I mean, you could, visually, it's hard to see, but you could see that it moved. And they just didn't want to deal with it. They started doing the calculations, how much would a new engine cost? And I had it supercharged. So they're like, okay, like this just could be a bad deal. And they refused to give me the money to fix it. I said, look, you can pay me less. I don't care. I just want to fix the car.
Yeah.
And they're like, no. your only option is to either total it or cancel the claim, and you figure it out on your own.
Wow.
Like, well, I don't want to figure it out on my own. So I got rid of it, bought another one, and it just was never the same. I thought I'd keep that car for the rest of my life. I really did.
It's a great car.
I mean, it put so many miles on it. I've taken it all over the country, so many memories with it. And I thought that would be like a centerpiece of like my future. Just have it there. Even if one day I don't drive it, just always own it.
You'll get another one.
Probably one day. Right now, all my focus and time is on this podcast, on my new baby.
Yeah. Congrats, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Being a dad is cool.
Yeah. Being a dad has been fantastic. And I don't have time right now to even enjoy it. If I had one, like, what do I do with it? It would just sit there. I think during COVID, I had this convertible Huracan, and I think I drove it one day a month.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, this is stupid. It's just sitting here collecting dust. I'm not going to drive it. Then my wife got pregnant. Like, all right, I really don't need this right now.
Yeah.
But one day I would love to do something cool. Maybe not a Lamborghini next time. Maybe a Porsche.
I can relate, because the last Porsche that I had, I sold it just before our son was born, because I'm like, well, this isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And, literally waited 6 years to get another one.
I think my next one will be a Porsche. I really wanted a GT3. And then now the new GT3 RS is coming out. And
man, these cars, like, can they make them any better?
Seriously.
It's incredible.
And Porsche has done such a great job, because they went from this car that everyone said, oh, they all kind of look the same. That used to be the knock on Porsche, right?
Sure.
You can buy the most expensive one, you can buy the cheapest one. They kind of look the same. And they've done such a good job of staying true to what they do, but at the same time, making that gap between the higher end one and like the beginner one, like bigger. And now when you see like a GT3 or GT3RS or a 911 go down the street, you're like, oh.
It's distinctive.
It's not like it used to be,
when I was in the exotic business, the exotic automotive industry, during training, the Porsche would always come up as the competitor. And one of the arguments with these exotic manufacturers was, well, it's just a little dull. It's just a little boring. It doesn't have a soul. And I think Porsche kind of listened, because if you drive, let's say, a 991.2, where they went turbocharged, and then you drive a 992, they're completely different.
Yeah.
Like, the car it not only has more performance, but it's more compliant as well. So when I was in Porsche training, one thing that really resonated with me is, like, they said it's something to the effect of, Porsche, all things considered, it's the best. And I go, all things considered, I guess it is the best, when you think about it. Easy to insure. Don't have to have a huge, checklist before you take one out, like an Aventador. I mean, good gosh, you got to look at weather, you got to look at traffic, where am I parking it? All of these things. You could take any Porsche out of the Rolodex and take it out in just about any condition, in most cases, and it'll be fine.
Porsche was rolling out this program before, and I'm just curious, because they were doing this Porsche, I think they called Porsche Passport, something like this, where you would pay a monthly fee.
Yeah, the Porsche Drive is what they call it now. Same thing, though.
Do they still do that?
They still do it.
Do you actually get people to do it? Is it popular?
It's popular. One of the challenges that I've kind of seen, and it may not be for everybody, but the cars that you really want to drive, they are booked out for quite a while.
So you're stuck.
Maybe not always, but that's from what I've heard.
So you're stuck with like a Cayenne, like all the time.
Yeah, which isn't too bad.
Which isn't bad. Yeah. But if you want maybe a 911 or something like this,
be prepared to wait a little bit. And it's just like the new cars on the buying side. Like, I'm sure a lot of people are going to see this. They're going to be like, oh, Grant, can you get me a GT3? No, I can't. Like, literally, I have people come in and they're like, hey, I want to put a deposit on that GT3. And I'm like, look, I don't want to waste your time, but I have a deposit from a guy that I sold exotic cars to that left the deposit before I started with Porsche, and I still don't have his allocation yet. And he's bought, previous Porsches from the store. So it's, it's unless you've bought 10, 15, 20 cars, it is a real challenge. Not saying it's impossible, but I had to switch my whole game up when I started selling Porsches. I'm like, all right, here I am. I'm going to sell a bunch of sports cars. And then they're like, hey, Grant, your clients will grow with you. And I'm like, grow with me? What are you talking about? They've grown with me. I mean, I got a list of, 500-600 people that have spent over $1 million.
Yeah.
It all starts to zero at that point. That stuff, sure, it helps somewhat if there's a determining factor of who gets what car at the end of the day. But, you're in it for the long haul, not only as a client, but as a brand ambassador.
So if I told you I want the new GT3 RS that comes out, you tell me kick rocks.
I wouldn't tell you kick rocks. I would say there are other pathways to ownership.
Yeah.
One of the things that we'll get sometimes are extra cars from Porsche for performing well as a store. When I first started, I think we finished like 4th in the nation. I forget what KPI that was, new cars, used cars, overall, whatever. But last year we finished 2nd. And again, I'm not sure exactly what line item that is, but we finished 2nd. And, and the other thing too is like when, I recently got my 992, amazing car.
Beautiful.
And yeah, thank you. And the average consumer would be like, well, how do you get that car? And I don't get one. Well, what they don't know is by me getting that car, we get an extra allocation, meaning we can sell more 911s. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it's a game, right? So buying a placeholder car can help, but it's patience too. And it's the relationship. They want the relationship. They don't want the transaction.
And that's the toughest thing about certain exotic or car dealers, right? Or exotic car brands is that it's not easy to get a car if you want to. And I don't think most people understand that. I mean, if you're in the supercar world, you understand how it works. Yep. It's like that with Ferrari. Mm-hmm. It's like that with
maybe even more so with Ferrari.
Ferrari's just
you sell one of their cars, they'll sue you.
Yeah. They are very particular about who they sell to, what you do with it. You can't modify them. They get really upset if you do anything crazy with them.
Which they should be. They want to protect their brand image. I get it.
And Lamborghini's the opposite. They don't care at all.
They don't care. Yeah.
Lamborghini, you show up, you have money, they'll sell you a car.
McLaren really doesn't care.
McLaren will do the same.
Yeah.
But Porsche and Ferrari, it's very difficult to get one of their higher end cars. And I don't think most people realize how difficult it is to get a brand new GT3 RS or even a GT3. I mean, I remember when they first announced the new 992, impossible, no way. And even if you want one, you got to pay, where are they going? What, 50 over sticker? 100?
Right now, it just depends on the year and miles, but a little over sticker to a little under sticker for like a CPO car. And then a new one. It depends on which dealership you make the purchase at, but for us, 9 times out of 10, it's at MSRP.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys aren't marking them up at all? Not even a little bit? Or
there's sometimes on rare occasions, there's some products that are installed, but in terms of like raw ADM, like a lot of dealers are doing, Hennessy Porsche is not doing that. So
really?
I think, the organization.
That's very rare because most dealerships I've been into, they'll look and be like, okay, we'll get you one, or, we have one coming in and it's 100 over. This is common around the whole country, right? 100 over.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist in rare circumstances. So those extra Porsche cars that come in, hey, Hennessy Porsche, do you want this GT3 that we built? You did well last year. Sure, we'll take it. Well, now my pre-owned manager goes, okay, well, I've got this GT3 CPO out here for this much over. So that car then competes with that CPO
so
car.
It has to be more expensive than the CPO one.
Or as is expensive, because I mean, if you give a client a choice, hey, here's a brand new GT3 without a name on it, it's a MSRP, and then we get the pre-owned one out there at 100 over or whatever. It's kind of unfair to that department. So it's fairness, and it's also in selling the new ones at MSRP, it protects the local client base.
And you say pre-owned. Can we not say used anymore?
We can say used, sure. Yeah. Some are more used than others.
Because whoever bought my Lamborghini, it was beat up.
It was used.
It was not just used.
It was not pre-owned.
It was demolished. Actually, I found the guy who bought my total Lamborghini.
Really?
Yeah, it's out in Chicago.
And he's got it running again.
He got it running again. I think he said he put in about 80 grand and to get it up and running again, which was more than I thought. Yeah. So maybe I'm glad I didn't say I'd do it.
Yeah.
But he put about 80 grand into it, and took him about 6 months of work.
Okay.
Because they redid everything just in case.
Yeah, and those parts just aren't on the shelf either.
Exactly. You have to dig around. You have to find used parts. You have to contact Italy, etc. How is it with getting parts for Porsche?
Porsche is pretty good right now. There are certain things that are still related to post-pandemic semiconductor shortage. So like Bose amps, Burmester amps, those could be challenging. Second keys, really challenging. We've seen a couple little small instances where, okay, hey, every 911 now except for Turbo S will have a manually adjusted steering column. Okay. Now, I've got an RS5 Sportback as well, and I got some all-weather mats and like the rear trunk mat, and I went over there and picked it up, and I just asked the parts guy, I said, hey, how are things at Audi? Like, are the part situation okay? He goes, no, man, it's bad. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we've got cars sitting here for months without alternators. I'm like, you're kidding me. So it makes our little challenge seem minuscule by comparison. And I think there's probably manufacturers out there that are having, a lot more challenges than what we've been having.
If you were to look at a similar brand of car, who do you think would be the best one to work with right now? Other than Porsche. And Porsche or Porsche?
Porsche. Okay. Yeah. Protecting you. You're going to have a million comments. It's Porsche, not Porsche. Gosh, that's a good question. I think Mercedes-AMG has done a pretty good job, especially if you look at the comparative analysis of what these, new hard-to-get cars are selling for over. For instance, the AMG GTR Black Series. I think that's the proper terminology. They're bringing like double MSRP or were.
Crazy.
I don't know if that's like the prime indicator, but it seems like if you've got a product that is that hard to get and the market demands that you ask that much over, you're probably doing something right. Maybe another brand. I hate to say it, but Kia. I mean, they've done a great job recently, right? I mean, they've got this new EV SUV. I'm going to get reamed for this, but brands that are doing well. Would I go work for Kia? No, it's just not my thing. But I recognize that the strides that they've made. It's no longer just a throwaway car.
So we went to go try to test drive a minivan, and we went to go test drive a Kia Carnival, which is their minivan.
Yeah,
they are on back order for like 3 months.
Incredible.
They were like, if you want one, you can put a deposit down now. And when we get an allocation available, then we'll call you and you can tell us if you want that color or not. You can't pick your spec or color because they're not available. I was like, what the fuck is going on?
What is
here?
this? What is this? The Kia Carnival GT3?
I thought I was buying a Kia.
And the words allocation in Kia minivan? It's like, who would have thought?
Never in a million years would I have ever imagined that I thought we were going to walk in and they were going to try to sell us one on the lot.
Right.
And we'd be like, oh, we don't really want it. And we make a deal because the Kia. Nope. They're like, oh, we don't have it. Like, leave your number and can we see one? Can we drive? I'm like, oh, yeah, if you want, like, come back another time. I'm like, they're just blowing us off because they're so
insane.
popular.
It's insane.
And I was like, so they have like different trim levels, and whatever the highest trim level one, they have like these electronic reclining seats for the back, which is pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, so how can we get one of those then? And the guy was like, I've seen one. We've had one come to our dealership in the last year.
It's insane.
So, like, don't even think about it.
They've got tons of technology. I mean, I get asked on, a pretty common occasion, like, well, does it have the camera when you do the turn signal? No, it doesn't have that. Yeah. Well, this other car has, like, the screen on it, but the car you have got, it's got, just the mechanical gauges. So I'm like, well, Porsche's focused on performance and,
who knew
lifestyle.
that Kia would give you a run for your money?
I'm telling you, I think these German manufacturers, when they've got their focus, whether it be like Mercedes with luxury, well, they've done a good job with tech, but like Porsche, for instance, they wait until like the customer base really nags them before they make those like little, all right, we'll go ahead and do it sort of changes. I'm pretty happy with the Audi as well. And the only reason I started buying Audis as like a daily driver is selling Lamborghinis. You've got that sort of virtual cockpit like you see in the Audis. And I thought, well, that technology's got to translate. So I bought that S4, later traded it for the RS5. It's been a great car. And it's a good value, overall.
Yeah, my wife right now drives a Macan GTS.
That's a great machine.
And she loves that thing.
Yeah.
It's, I think, a 21. And she loves that thing.
It's incredible.
And we've been discussing minivan life or something like that.
Minivan life.
And she's like, oh, but I love my white Porsche with my red interior. How do I go to like a minivan? Then I'm going to become the minivan mom. And it's not an easy jump,
Yeah. Do adulting, they said. It'll be fun, they said.
She loves it. So after I bought the car from you, in 2017, and I remember I think it was a month or 2 months after, and I was just following him. Hey, Grant, how are you doing? And I didn't hear from you.
Yeah.
And you were kind of MIA for a while. And then later, after the fact, I found out, what had happened,
Yeah.
which is, I don't want to use the word tragic because I don't think that describes it properly, but it was a life-changing moment.
For sure.
Can you walk us through that just a little bit?
Yeah. So Anita, my wife, she was pregnant. Things were going well, first trimester. She started to get a little bit of numbness in her legs. Went to the doctor. Here, take these pills. Normal. And then there was one morning where she could not urinate. She couldn't urinate. And I'm going, all right, I don't know a whole lot about like what's going on, but something doesn't sound right. We're going to take you into the emergency room. And it was just a couple hours later. She was completely paralyzed from here down. And yeah, it was tough. Seeing your wife walk pregnant one day to not walking the next day, and they're trying to figure out, how to treat this mystery illness. And I think it's one thing. Later we found out it's something else. I was out of work for, call it 6 months, basically, off and on. I mean, we were living in hospitals, essentially.
Trying to figure out what's going on.
Trying to figure out what it is. And initially they said it was transverse myelitis. Transverse myelitis is sort of this idiopathic autoimmune disease, I guess you could say, or condition where basically your own body attacks your spinal cord. And so we were like, okay, that's what it is. And then you look at, you Google everything. Mm-hmm. You're on WebMD, you're searching to the ends of the internet, trying to figure out, well, what does this all mean? And for that particular condition, it was, 1/3 recover, 1/3 have some recovery, and the other third have no recovery or little recovery. So I'm going, okay, well, we got to get the best treatment. Well, my wife was able to get into Shepherd Center here in Atlanta, one of the best spinal cord institutes in America. And it's not an easy thing to get in there.
Really?
She was actually the first pregnant patient there in over 20 years.
Wow.
And the neurologist there noticed that there was still some inflammation on some MRIs that he called for. So he recommended that we go to Johns Hopkins and see this leading expert on non-traumatic spinal cord injuries. So injuries to the spinal cord that are not a car accident, you're not on a motorcycle, you're not falling out of a tree stand or anything like that, but just naturally occurring, internally sort of spinal cord injuries. And so we went up there and he goes, I've only seen this once in my entire career. And he goes, you had a spinal cord stroke. And there's no other, transverse myelitis is rare enough as it is. This is completely just never happens, basically.
I don't even think I've ever heard of that before.
Yeah. So essentially there's blood flow in the spinal cord and there was some sort of hemorrhage that occurred. She probably had this abnormality in her spinal cord all her life. They're saying that the pregnancy may have manifested it. Now, I'm not saying this to freak anybody out. If you're getting pregnant, you're probably okay, right? And then it basically cut the blood flow to the rest of her spinal cord. And so all the nerves basically die at that point, or they become extremely weak. But she's made tremendous strides since then. This was back in 2017, but it was a dark time.
Yeah.
It was not easy. I was probably the worst shape I've ever been in terms of physical, mental. It was like a crisis, basically.
Your whole life changed kind of overnight.
Yes, and this was a new world to me.
Well, one thing I wanted to clarify, you had a son.
Yes.
He made it through.
He did.
He is healthy now.
Super healthy.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
So at least we have that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to ask before because I was worried I would get an answer I didn't want to hear. But to hear that he's good.
Yeah.
And his name is Van?
Van, yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. He's actually Grant Van Brewer Jr.
Really?
We call him Van.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's positive.
Yeah.
What was it like? What was it like when you first found out that's what it is? Did you have time to kind of be depressed, be sad, or did you have to just kind of get moving right away? What was that process? It's a lot to happen just overnight. Again, I just bought a Lamborghini from you like 2 months prior.
Yeah.
And I saw your wife with you at that food truck.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before that happened, I mean, I didn't honestly believe I could ever be depressed. Like, I knew people were suffering from depression out there, and I go, oh, well, you know, just get over it, whatever, which is harsh. But then when it happens to you and you can't shake it, you feel like you're going insane. And, you know, to be honest, I kind of did there for a minute. I wasn't myself towards the end of it. But yeah, it was incredibly difficult. And, you know, eventually you just have to kind of recenter yourself, you know, accept and move forward, hope for the best, do all the things that you possibly can to, you know, not only give her the best chance, give your family the best chance. But I think through that, it created a lot of mental toughness. And that struggle kind of put us in the position where we are today. She's doing great. Van, he's helping out. He's amazing. But yeah, it was difficult. So if anybody that goes through that, it's okay to be depressed. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to go through those things. You know, it reminds you that you're human.
I remember after somewhere in the last few years, not recently, but many years ago, we ran into each other. And I remember thinking, oh, this guy doesn't seem like he's doing too well. I remember thinking that.
Yeah.
And not to put you on the spot, but people would be like, hey, have you seen Grant recently? He doesn't seem like he's doing well. And I would get those calls every once in a while. You are not the same guy you were then.
Not at all.
You
Thank
are
God.
clear-minded. You seem so much more focused. But there was a time where I think you were kind of deep into it.
Yeah.
What was that like?
So that was kind of towards the trail end of things. I had just decided that, you know, I was on all these antidepressants, all these, you know, SRIs and all this medication. And I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to stop taking all that. I'm going to quit my job and I'm just going to try to figure something out. But that wasn't me at that time. That was, you know, manic me. And that was the first, not only was I depressed for the first time before that, but it was the first and only manic episode I've ever had. It's crazy. So I had a moment there where, like, literally, and I had people telling me all around, like, you know, this isn't you. And I'm like, oh no, it's me. You don't know that you're in one of those things. And then the crash after that was tough, you know, so now you have this super high that you don't realize that you're in. And then now you're at a pretty low point again. And, you know, it's crazy when I look back at, you know, on your iPhone, you've got this health where you can see your steps. You could see, like, the amount of steps going down with the initial depression. And then you see it shoot way up and stay up for like 6-7 months. And then it just flatlines again. And so it's amazing when I look at my journey and kind of where I am now, and I look at kind of those steps going back up and staying up, I'm just so thankful that not only I didn't hurt anybody, I didn't completely lose it and do something I regret, and that my family's healthy and we're all doing great. So yeah, thanks for acknowledging that.
No, I mean, it was, I was concerned. You know, I think a lot of people were concerned because everyone knew you as just a great guy. And almost everyone was like, oh, but he went through so much. And it was really difficult to see, not sure how the story would end. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, you know, going through something that is almost traumatic, getting on maybe whatever the prescriptions that people tell you to take that maybe will make you feel better. And maybe it does in the beginning, but it doesn't last.
It doesn't.
You know? And how would you decide that I'm going to stop?
I don't know. It was just a feeling, I guess. I'm kind of glad that I did go through all that. You know, I look at, like, all the struggles in my life and I'm like, had I been insulated from this, had I not gone through a difficult time, then I wouldn't be who I am today. You know, learning from all those struggles and challenges, I think, really molds you into the person that you're trying to be. So if you fast forward all the way to today, I'm on zero, like, medication for depression or any of that. Now I'm on this, like, total nootropic kick.
Okay.
So I'm taking 20-something pills a day, but they're all, like, you know, total human, you know, natural, you know, performance enhancing things like that you can find on Amazon, like, Tungat Ali and Fidogia agrestis and like all of these vitamins, just so that, like, look, my family depends on me. So I've got to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be for them, for others, and for myself. So what am I not doing that I could do so that the next couple of years are the best years ever? And one of the things is just taking care of yourself, taking care of your body.
Because you look fantastic.
Appreciate that.
You
look great as well.
I could be better, but you look in really good shape. Not what I remember.
No.
It's quite a transformation.
It was a couple transformations. Yeah. Like I went from honestly, like a little bit on the alcoholic side. Like I look at an old picture of me and I'm going, God, look at that gut, and then I see another picture like full manic. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I, $160 right there?
Yeah.
And then, so now it's like
up and down, up and down.
I feel ideal, so it's good. It's a good thing to do.
So I want to touch on this one more thing, because when I talk to people about their hardship, before we get to kind of how we got out of it and the result of it, what do you think in the process was your darkest moment?
Gosh, probably, living in a hospital basically for those 6 months was tough. And there comes a point where, you're like, hey, you gotta leave your wife at the hospital, that one night, and to say, look, I just need to sleep in my own bed at the house instead of sleeping on this cot in the corner. And then you're there and you have all these thoughts. I mean, suicidal thoughts even, right? And, that's probably the darkest moment. But I think the silver lining to that is still having some friends around where, hey, man, do you need me to come over? And then having the courage to say, you know what? Yeah, just come over. Just make sure I'm good. You know what I mean? Getting to that point is the lowest, for sure.
Asking your friends for help when you're dark is not easy.
It's not.
People think that would be the most obvious time to ask for help, but that's the hardest time to ask for help, when you're feeling the most vulnerable. It's easy to ask for help when life is good and you need someone to help move a couch.
Yeah.
It's easy to make that call.
For sure.
Right? But when you're feeling really down and you want to reach out, I don't know, it's something about being vulnerable and feeling that way that makes it even more difficult. And when someone does call you at that moment, it's the moment you really need to step up and help.
For sure.
But don't call me for your couch.
Unless I helped you with it, unless it's a favor that's returned.
No. You're a grown-ass man. Yeah. Hire a fucking mover.
Yeah.
I ain't moving no couch no more. Not in college. So through the process, you've learned about kind of what's going on with your wife, with Anita, and also going through the process of the fact that she will never walk again, or...
That's what they say.
So you decided to start your own medical company.
Yeah.
It's something that you do.
And by the way, I believe one day she will walk, whether
Really?
it's on her own, whether it's, a God-given miracle, or you look at things like Elon Musk with Neuralink. I mean, there are some promising things out there in the, technological healthcare side of things that could be promising.
Okay, I want to unpack that quickly because we had a guy here on before, Sean.
I saw that.
And he went to Korea to try all of the treatments possible,
Right.
all types of stem cell, pretty much everything that he could try without taking too much risk. And his conclusion was none of it works. But everyone's experience is different.
True.
And his spinal cord was severed through traumatic injury. What have you tried, and what do you think would possibly work?
That's a good question. We tried to get her into this stem cell institute, and she was declined because when you check the box for stroke, 99.9% of the time, it's the stroke that you think it is. And what we found out is the majority of these stem cell, the viable stem cell treatment facilities, if you've had a stroke, then it automatically disqualifies
Really?
you. Yeah.
Why is that?
I'm not sure.
Is it because potential future risk of stroke, or
I think it's probably got something to do with the blood flow side of things.
or do they want to keep their
I have no idea.
success rate a certain percentage and they don't want to take things that are considered low success? Do you think that's a possible
It's possible.
motivator? I don't know.
I'm not that deep in neurology to give you an educated answer. But so we tried that. We did physical therapy. That seems to have helped some. She's regained a level in terms of like what she can, feel. She's increased her trunk stability, things like that. Small little improvements.
So there's a little bit of progress.
A little bit. Not a ton, to be honest with you, but I will say the progress that's been made has been mentally incredible. She's an incredible wife, an incredible mother, and you could just see her drive and determination, like, just wanting to get things done, not to be, quote unquote, confined to a wheelchair. And I love that about her, So I think as long as she keeps this up and, we either get a God-given miracle or some sort of advancement in that medical technology comes out with relation to the spinal cord, I think you could put a lot of these things together and at least see some, gain of mobility to a certain aspect.
Because I see my wife with my daughter and how much she wants to be around her. And her life revolves around her now. And to not be able to move in a way to handle, especially a young boy, must be really tough on her. How does she handle that?
It was difficult at first. Things are getting better now that he's older, but yeah, there's still some challenges on the day-to-day. We've got a dog in the house as well, and he has trouble walking. So yeah, she has to hit the punch-out clock every now and then to say, hey, I need to take a break. My back's hurting, the pain's a big thing, but we're making improvements there, I want to say. But everything has to be done a different way. When this first happened, we had this, big 2-story house with stairs and all that. And literally I built another house in the exact same neighborhood, one level, and I made it as ADA as possible. So there's no steps going inside. All the doorways are wider. The countertops are as low as I could possibly get them. So there's all these little things that really help her out where otherwise it would be even more of a struggle. So I've kind of cleared the path as much as possible for her.
And I guess you're kind of fortunate that you were able to provide that for her.
Yes.
There are people out there who don't have that, I'm going to use the word luxury, to do that. And that must be even more difficult then. Because imagine if you didn't have the financial means to build a new house.
Exactly.
And you're stuck in that 2-story
super blessed,
house.
super grateful and thankful. It's there are some improvements that could be made to make it a little bit better, but it's what we could do, and so I'm just thankful that we were able to do something.
So if you had the opportunity, because obviously Elon Musk is working on this Neuralink, the first thing that he says it's for is to help people regain function of their limbs that have severed spinal cords. I don't know if your wife's condition is considered a severed spinal cord.
It's not. That's the tricky thing. So, when you cut off blood flow, this is my understanding at least. I'm no medical expert, but when you cut off blood flow from the spinal cord, it's basically like cutting off water to the roots of a tree. What's going to happen to the roots? So I don't know how effective it could potentially be. She can still feel like some tingling and some pressure. So maybe there's still some nerve activity there that we could sort of reinvigorate and activate. So even let's say if we can get, one of her toes to wiggle, we can take that and grow off of that. That's something that I think you can improve upon. Once you get that key unlocked, So, she's going to go out there and run a 40-yard dash next week if she gets a Neuralink put in today? Probably not. All right. But again, some sort of improvement is better than no improvement at all.
Just a little bit of hope.
Yeah, exactly. But, there is some good that has come out of this. And I think you touched on it briefly there.
So you are going to, so you started a new medical device company.
Yes.
It is called myREability.
Yep.
I think it is.
That's right.
And you are starting with your first product as to me, I read your entire patent. You sent it to me. It's like 20 pages or 30 pages.
Yeah.
I read it. I understood 0.5% of it.
Okay.
But I have a gut feeling of what it is.
Yeah.
It is a carbon fiber reinforced ergonomic wheelchair.
Yes. And more than that, but yeah.
More than that.
Yep. So our latest iteration, it uses sort of AI-driven, 3D printed, carbon fiber reinforced polyurethane, and then with carbon fiber tubing. It kind of mates it all up. So it's a very value engineered, cutting edge process that we're using to make this. I don't think anybody's done anything like this before in this space. It is stunning to look at. It doesn't look like a normal wheelchair.
Yeah, Will, can you pull up the pictures? Let's take a quick look at it.
And the challenge was getting it to an affordable price point. And I think we've been able to do that. So this is one of them here. This was like our first prototype where that chair is all one piece. It's all carbon fiber. That's a company, the wheels on there, that's a company out of the UK that we've worked with called Loop Wheels. They're great. Those actually have built-in suspension. The spokes are carbon fiber, and that central hub kind of moves around to reduce vibration. Yeah, it's pretty stunning to look at.
So this is the...
This is just a prototype. So this particular one, not going into production, but we learned a lot from it. We took this as sort of a learning tool to say, okay, what kind of improvements can we make? You know, how do we get it lighter? How do we make it more cost effective? But something similar to that will be,
So that one's almost like a concept vehicle.
Yes, this one is a lot closer to reality here.
And that's 3D printed?
3D printed and carbon fiber. Yeah, and we've got an incredible team. I give my hats off. Yeah, that's a business partner there, Shank. He is a wizard when it comes to all things with CAD, materials, finite element analysis, stress testing, and just putting all the pieces to the puzzle together. So
you guys are building this yourselves?
Yes.
All?
About 99% of it.
Wow.
With the exception of just a couple little bits.
Yeah.
And we've done that because when you have to rely on other suppliers, it kind of sucks, right?
Yeah.
You got to wait on stuff, or you don't get...
They just don't move at the pace you want to move.
Yeah, and having that control to be able to say, we've got to order from, whoever, the VA for 3,000 units. Okay, well, let's make them,
Let's click that video real quick.
Pretty cool.
So that's Van?
That is Van. And shout out to Marco Hernandez for making this video.
So it looks like there's some sort of electronic assist on that. Is that what that is?
Yeah, so that's called a Smart Drive MX2. That is a power assist attachment that will go to most manual wheelchairs. And you basically wear like a smart watch and you tap on it, and then it will give you a power assist. So the problem with a full electric wheelchair, and in some cases with, a high spinal cord injury, it's required, right? But most people with, that are in their, let's say, 20s and 30s, active lifestyle, moderate or low spinal cord injury, they kind of want to be in a manual chair because it gives them that freedom. It gives them that exercise.
Also feels like they're moving around a little bit.
Yeah, they're moving around.
So static all the time.
Exactly. And it's, it's less chair. And then what we've created, or what we are creating, is even lesser chair.
It's going to be super light.
Super light. And, the whole reason why I did this was I wanted people to focus on the user and not on the wheelchair. There was a guy that came out with this quote. He was in the industry. He said something to the effect of, remember glasses 30 years ago? They had a stigma, right? Oh, 4 eyes. Well, now you see people wearing like Tom Fords and Gucci's. They got no prescription in them at all, clear lenses.
Some of them don't even have lenses.
Yeah,
finger right through.
Exactly. And wheelchairs still have astigmatism. Astigmatism. Still have a stigma. It's funny. And so we're looking to change that. It's no longer going to be, oh my gosh, what happened? Now it's going to be like, wow, what is that? And that changes it like big time. So not only is it lighter weight, from a physical perspective for the user, but now mentally the initial interactions that they have out in public are going to be positive and not negative. So I think when you combine those two things, you're taking care of everything.
I mean, how far out are we? roughly, what do you think one of these? I have no gauge of what's considered an expensive wheelchair, so it's hard for me to know. But I'm assuming that the higher end ones are not cheap.
They're not.
I'm going to assume this one is not cheap. It looks expensive, but I think it fits your brand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that purple chair was, probably $15,000-$16,000 to create.
Wow.
Now, if we made another one just like that, the cost would go down substantially.
Because learning.
Yeah. The latest iteration, I'm not going to give out any pricing details, but I would say that it would shock you how low cost we were able to get this thing.
Really?
Like so low cost that you could market it for whatever you wanted to retail it for, but our goal was to make a price point, that was agreeable, something that's not, that's not 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand, something much cheaper than that. So to be able to get that sort of device for not that much more than what a normal wheelchair costs, I think we've been able to achieve that.
And how long do you think it will take before you're ready to go to market?
Oh man,
He's been working on this for a while.
Yeah, it's been going on for quite a while. I'd say at this point, pending no delays, 3, 6, 9 months, something like that. It depends on how many more iterations we're going to make of it. The good news is, I believe the hard part's over. We figured out kind of, okay, well, this is really, really close to what we want. So it's just testing, maybe shaving a little bit more weight, getting the cost down even a little bit more. So 3 to 6 months would be ideal, but we'll see.
In order to sell it as a medical device so that insurance companies kick in, because from my understanding, anything medical device, you need insurance companies to kick in because that makes it consumable to the most amount of people.
Correct.
Is there a lot of certification process in order to get that? What's that process like?
It is very expensive. It's very intensive. It takes a long time. There's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of attorney involvement. So I don't want to give away all of it, but what I would say is we've found a way to sort of bypass that in the beginning so we can scale up to help fund that because that is a process that requires a lot of attention.
Is that FDA?
It's FDA.
FDA.
Yep. So
and they move slowly.
They do.
And there's people think the FDA is huge. There's a handful of people in office. That's the whole FDA.
Yeah.
It's 10 guys. That's it.
Yeah. It's
it's not a huge division. It's not. I'm telling you guys, it's not.
It is red tape after red tape.
Yeah.
So we were initially going to go ahead and go for that, but we got to get this in the hands of the users, at the end of the day. So, our marketing strategy is going to tailor towards that so we can bypass it. And then we'll come out with some sort of final iteration that we know will test and meet all those requirements, which we're kind of prepped and ready to do that anyway with our existing device.
So does that mean you start with maybe individual consumers first before you go after the bigger,
correct,
maybe healthcare or hospital or VA type accounts? Because
that's right.
You probably have to go through the whole process for them to even consider purchasing.
Oh, you do. Yes. Yeah. It is quite lengthy.
You have to check the boxes.
You do.
Yeah.
And there are many. But we've kind of designed this and engineered it in a way where when that time comes, it should meet or exceed all of those things.
What do you think the biggest obstacle is in getting this off the ground?
That's a good question. I think for a while it was just realizing what the end product should be, because what it started off as, and we'll still offer, a full carbon fiber chair. There's still definitely a market there. Insurance would never approve that, right? Because it's too expensive. So, okay, if insurance wants something cheap, how do we make it cheap? How do we make it light? How do we make it cool and not look like any other product in the market? So we took those basic principles and took our existing prototype and we made a bunch of changes and a bunch of iterations. We kept similar design language, but we changed a lot of things on it. Everything is completely different. So getting it tailored for that plan was probably the biggest challenge and took the most amount of time. It was pulling together the right resources, the right people that had the know-how, because I'm no engineer. I'm not in, DME or durable medical equipment sales. So I don't have all of the lore. All I have is my wife and her experience, and basically me laying down on the little cot at Shepherd Center next to her on Google going, carbon fiber wheelchair, do they exist? You know, as I'm selling
as
McLarens.
a car guy, as a car guy, it's the most obvious thing to look up.
Yeah, because I watched her go through that process, and I go, okay, well, this is how that presentation went, and this is the product, and I'm going, well, this doesn't seem anything like what I do. I mean, when I'm selling a McLaren to a client or Lamborghini, I'm making them feel special. I'm giving them all the creative options, and it just felt kind of government issued. And here's the product, take it or leave it. And I'm going, this has to change.
And I hate that about a lot of this type of industry is that we're almost forced to buy or sell or be a certain way based on what the insurance companies will approve, based on what the government will sign off on. And you have to go through all the red tape, all the politics, all of that dancing in order to sell something that maybe the consumer really does want, but they'll never get it because the government and the insurance companies won't approve it, which is really, it sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. Yeah.
You know, like
lack of innovation is all throughout the marketplace.
If I was forced to be in a wheelchair and that was what I was supposed to spend pretty much my life in, I want the most gangster wheelchair out there.
Of course,
I wanted
right?
all carbon fiber. I wanted to have colors.
Yeah.
I wanted options.
We can make one for you in the event. Hopefully that never happens to you, but hey.
But you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
You do that with your cars. You do that with your lounge chair at home.
Yeah, and you're going to be in this thing 24/7 when you're not in the bed. So it's like, just like for us, cars are an extension of our personality and our lifestyle. I mean, that's definitely in the realm for wheelchair users, right? They're going to be in it.
I think that's an awesome idea. Because, I mean, I'm thinking, I wonder if Sean would be interested in something like this. Again, I think of him because that's the most recent conversation I had with someone in this type of situation.
I'd be happy to let him try one out.
Yeah, I think he'd be really interested. Because he drives a truck and he takes a wheelchair, pulls it over him, puts it on the ground, and then the next one he goes in and he lifts himself up, puts in there. It's a lot of work. He's also strong now.
It is a lot of work.
And he, I feel like when I see that and when I see him, and he drives everywhere too. Does your wife drive?
She's about to start driving again. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Her car is actually getting state-of-the-art controls put in it right now. We're excited about it.
And when I see him do that, I'm like, damn, there's got to be a better way. Yeah. And I can't believe, I'm sure there are people that thought that. And it's all this control, all of these, the red tape, all of the kind of rules you have to follow that prohibits innovation.
Yeah.
And I love that you guys are going against it.
We're trying, I mean, it's
not easy.
It's not easy, but
it's easier if you just do what they want you to do.
I've heard that, I've heard this is impossible 1,000 times, and I just keep going.
What's impossible about it?
I just think many have tried and very few have succeeded. And they're not going to let you in the marketplace. All these big companies out there that are already making this. I guess we'll find out, right?
Well, I think that's the one great thing about how technology works these days, is that it gives companies like you a chance. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you had no chance, because if you don't go through their distribution model and their plan and follow their rules, there's no way you can get it to market. You can't self-promote it. No one can see it. But now you have the ability to get it out to the masses in other non-traditional ways. Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to go through, because if you ever walk into a medical supply store, there's nothing awesome about them.
Not at all. It is just stale and
it is
cold.
Just a room with some lights and some medical type devices. They call them medical devices, just scattered everywhere. Yeah. And there's nothing fun about it.
Yeah, we're the exact opposite of that. The newest iteration that we're working on now, we're having AI help us design it based on the criteria that we set. So based on the strength parameters, based on the target weight, based on the overall design language. You set all those things up and it basically says, well, here's the most ideal way to make this, or here's 10 versions. And then you go to down select it. So the technology that we're using, when you combine AI, 3D printing, carbon fiber, inexpensive, lightweight, it's like, how can you ignore that?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like fun. It sounds like a fun project. It sounds like, I love that you found a passion and something, and a passion and a business grow out of kind of your hardship. I think that's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's cool.
So starting a new company is not easy, and you still have your full-time job.
Yes.
So you're basically doing 2 full-time jobs.
Yes.
And you have a wife that you need to help out a little bit more than maybe others do.
Exactly.
And you have a young boy that probably causes all types of hell.
He does. Yeah. But we love him.
How are you able to balance all of that?
Easy answer, actually. Waking up early, staying disciplined, getting everything done that you can possibly get done before the night's over or before that day's over. Not leaving anything to marinate, just staying on top of everything. But I think discipline is really what it comes down to. I mean, Matt, do you want to wake up every morning at 5:15?
Sometimes I don't.
I mean, do you look forward to waking up at 5:15? Of course not, right? Nobody really does. But the ones that do that, let's say the Jocko Willinks or the David Goggins, they do it because they realize there's so many benefits to doing that. So you're up early before everybody else. You're able to, hit the gym, get invigorated from the workout. Now it's, call it, 6:45. You're getting dressed. You're going to your day job. You might knock out a few corporate emails, with your company. You kiss the wife and kid, and you go to your day job. You knock that out. You might intercept a couple texts or emails. Maybe you answer, maybe you don't. Maybe on your lunch break, you get home. I mean, it's just, you just keep on going. I don't think I necessarily do it for me. Like, there's not really a whole lot of yes, there's satisfaction, but the big picture is why I do it. So having that discipline is really the only way to do it, because if I just got up 30 minutes before I got to leave to go to work, it just wouldn't be possible.
Do you feel as though you were just as disciplined prior to kind of the accident? And I don't know what to call that. Accident?
You could say that, I guess.
Is that
injury?
Injury?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had that same discipline prior to the injury?
Not at all.
What do you think, kind of, how did you go from not being as disciplined of a person to kind of being who you are today?
Realizing that I've been given so many second chances, not only by God, but by everyone around me, a lot of, family members, friends, and just realizing that, man, you got to make it work this time. You're not going to get another second chance. Or let's say maybe you're not going to get another second chance. So it was just a decision that I just made one day, and I'm like, I'm just not going to settle for mediocrity anymore. I'm going to make sure that I give everybody around me the best version of myself. And then at the end of the day, I'm sure I'll feel better too, and I do. It's like all of the discipline with like the meals, the supplements, the working out, the zero to little alcohol, Dr. Huberman. I watched that whole podcast on how alcohol is just not great for...
Horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible for you. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to have a drink every once in a while, but, being able to say, no, I don't want that because, I want to perform at the highest possible level tomorrow. Like, I want that, Like, I'll save the celebrating for when there's something to celebrate of. But making that transformation, it was not easy at first, because the first 6 weeks you're into that. You just want to give up, but
the first 6 weeks of changing your life is the hardest.
For sure, without a doubt.
Day 1 is hard. Day 2 is harder. Day 3 is even harder.
You are forcing yourself.
Day
basically.
15, you're like, okay, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
This is stupid.
Yeah.
Give me my beer. Give me my Netflix. Let me chill.
Yeah. And I mean, you always have that little voice in the back of your head telling you, oh, just be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I've become comfortable being uncomfortable. So it's just a new normal for me.
Do you feel like you have a chip on your shoulder?
No.
Just
one.
one.
It's just, we spoke before this, like, I have nothing to complain about, right? Unless I do something myself that's detrimental, then I have something to complain about. And it's going to all fall back on me. So, yeah, it's just the best trajectory, I guess you could say.
Because it's not easy. I mean, there are times, like getting up at 5 a.m. is not easy. And I'll do it for a lot. I don't sleep a lot. So I'll get up early, and it's easier for me because I have a baby at home and she's always waking me up early. But to get moving, to get busy, to stay constantly active, it's a conscious choice.
It is.
It's not something that you kind of just do. It's not, even if you don't have anything to do, to stay busy anyway. It's not easy because most people will say, okay, I don't really have to do anything, so I'm just going to take it easy.
Yeah.
But you're like looking for things to do. And you find a way. That's why you work out in the morning in order to stay active. I need to get back in the gym.
And you don't have to do much. I mean, literally my workouts, I'm not in there for hour and a half, 2 hours. I am in there for 35 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour on rare occasion. But I'm not in there to socialize. I literally get in there. I do some cardio to get my heart rate up, and then I'm just circuit training on strength training, and then I get out. Like I get to a point where like I get a little bit of a pump, and I'm like, I'm good, and I just stay super strict on my diet. I take all my nootropics, all my vitamins and stuff. Drink a lot of water, get the proper amount of rest, and you don't have to kill yourself. So it doesn't have to be a whole lot.
When did you start kind of your disciplined approach to life?
I think when I first decided to be a better person and start that early morning workout routine, that was the start of it. And then, just started watching a bunch of podcasts, honestly, and learning from these successful individuals, not only in, finance, but like in their health and why that health was important. So then I started to sort of adopt some of the routines that they recommended.
How long ago do you think that was? That really, you said, okay, I'm really in this mode now.
Probably about a year ago.
Okay.
I mean, I would still work out and stuff like that, but I wasn't doing it every morning or almost every morning. I would go, okay, well, I worked out 2 times last week, worked out 1 time this week. Maybe I'll do 3 workouts next week. It was more of a just barely enough kind of situation before that. It was something, right?
Yeah.
But it developed into, okay, well, this has to be a way of life now.
What do you think it was that triggered from, I'm kind of doing it, I'm working kind of hard, to I'm working my ass off?
My family.
Your family?
Yeah. Just making sure that I could be the best version of myself for them so I could give them more and take care of them better. And let me tell you something. Now we're here. It's the mental clarity that you have from doing that month after month after month after month. When you get in these situations, let's say like at my work, you're dealing with, these 6-figure sports cars, you're dealing with attorneys, you're dealing with doctors, you're dealing with finance guys. You've got to be sharp. Okay. You can't be like 90% of the, car business guys out there. You've got to have a certain level of not only emotional intelligence, but you've got to be quick to answer, confident to answer, know what you're talking about, and then just being honest if you don't know what you're talking about. But find the answer, find a solution. I think everything seems to work better. You feel better, and you're sharper. And I like that as opposed to lethargic doing the bare minimum, Grant.
I mean, I like this version of you much better too.
Appreciate it.
You said you watched a few different podcasts, different people. Who are some that maybe people watching may be able to watch as well to help find motivation? Obviously, people are watching this, they've made it this far. So hopefully this is also motivating.
Yeah.
But if there's someone else that they could look forward to, maybe that you learn from, maybe a few people that you could recommend.
Sure.
That maybe worked for you.
Yeah. A couple of the guys I already mentioned, Jocko Willink, David Goggins, Dr. Huberman, Andrew Huberman, amazing. If you really want to get to that next level and find out, okay, this is good to take. Here's why. Here's what it does. Here are the benefits. That's been the most enlightening. So like when you're doing all the other things and you want to just crank it up a little bit more without killing yourself in the gym or with some crash diet, a lot of that is extremely helpful. Those are the top 3 guys. Like if you need motivation to kind of get on this path, just watch a little bit of Jocko Willink and David Goggins. That will make you feel very small and like you should be doing this, and you're not doing it, and you should be doing it.
They are like a million miles an hour.
They are, yeah.
And it's almost, sometimes I watch them and I'm tired from watching them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I feel like I just worked out. I just watched 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, let me get a towel real quick.
Yeah, you know? But then you're like, oh, get off your ass.
Basically, right?
You know?
And sometimes I'll be laying there in the bed. My alarm went off at 5:15, and you're scrolling through your phone. You're trying to like get the courage to like get up. You know you need to, and then I'll scroll through and I'll see a reel, and it's David Goggins. Get off your ass. And I'm just like, all right, I'll get off. This,
Yeah. Sometimes that's all you need.
Just
to
a
hear.
little push, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes guys need to hear it in that just most blunt, obvious way.
Yeah.
You know, they don't need to hear, maybe if you get up today, you'll be, no, sometimes you just need to hear, get the fuck off your ass.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. And that's all it is. Not like we're following someone because they're telling us to do it. It's sometimes you just need that little bit of nudge.
Yeah.
When you're on the fence. Do I want, it's 5 o'clock, especially these days, 5 o'clock, it's dark as hell.
Yeah.
It's pitch black outside.
Yeah. There's no sunlight.
Zero sunlight.
It would be nice to have it that early in the morning.
And there'll be no sunlight for another 2 hours, maybe, right? Maybe
Basically.
3 these days after the time change. And you're like, maybe it's nice and warm in bed. You know, I got my dog here next to me. It's nice and warm. You know, maybe I don't want to get up. And then sometimes you just need that little voice in your head that says, get off your ass.
Yep.
You know?
Meditation's another good one too. You know, doing breathing exercises.
Really?
Wim Hof, he's a peculiar guy, but he does a lot of the cold plunges and stuff. That's something that I have not done yet.
You haven't done the cold plunge yet.
I haven't done it yet. No, I kind of want to. But
How often do you meditate?
A few times a week.
Okay.
Yeah, not long.
How long?
5, 10, 15 minutes.
Just in quiet silence.
Quiet
sit there.
silence. Yep. Breathing.
That's something I've never gotten into, but I think I should try.
It's one of those things where I had to try it. I'm just like, what's this bullshit? Let me try it out. And then now I'm like, okay,
Really?
do it a few times a week, lunch break, whatever. And, you just, again, it's kind of like a mental clarity boost.
What do you think the biggest benefit is to you?
For
Meditating.
meditation? Just calming your thoughts, calming your mind, being able to go from a guy that's got to get everything accomplished, oh my gosh, to, all right, refocus. Okay, let's start with this. Then we'll go to the next one. Just kind of helps you reorganize, I think, your to-do list for that day. Because we're all busy. We all got a bunch of things going on. And just being able to calm down, take a second, slow down, don't make mistakes. That's really, I think, the best for me.
Every once in a while, on Instagram, you'll send me a clip, and it'll be like me, and we're talking about Entertate, or it'll be an Entertate clip, and like somehow I'm in the back. I don't know how I ended up in so many damn Entertate clips all over the world.
I don't either. I'm like, oh, look, Matt posted another reel. And I'm like, wait, this is somebody that shared Matt's clip about Andrew Tate.
I don't know how that went, all those went so viral, but they did. What do you think about him?
I think that his core belief system of who he is something that's admirable. Putting God first, being a real man, he's kind of got that sort of David Goggins, Jocko Willink approach to, hitting the gym, do the things that are uncomfortable. And then, if you do enough of those things right, you'll be successful. I think that, what's going on right now is, quite frankly, total bullshit.
It's a little unfair.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I like everything about him, but I think his message to his followers it's a message that I think more of us need.
Get off your ass, do something difficult.
Yeah, just be a man. Just be a man and get shit done.
Get shit done.
I mean, it's a pretty simple formula, right? But how many of us do it?
It's not. I was at Costco yesterday, and we're walking around, and I'm looking around like, damn. I'm looking at people's carts, and I'm like, this guy has a lot of cake and cookies and chips and shit. And then you look at him and you're like, oh, this guy's got to be sad. This is not healthy. This is not good for you. And you've just filled an entire cart with like sweets. And I can't imagine this ends well. And I'm sitting there, I'm almost judging people. And my wife's like, oh, don't do that, right? And we're like, okay, let's pass on this, because it's just there and it makes it look so good.
Yeah.
And then we ate pizza. We ate Costco
Hey,
pizza.
I'm guilty too.
You know, I'm like, oh, it's like $2, and I don't want to be cheap, but I love $2 pizza,
There's some satisfaction in that.
and
not
it's
gonna
so
lie.
like meaty and like thick, and you're like, oh, like I want it. So I did that, and I felt kind of bad about myself. I haven't eaten since because I know that was not a good move. But it's not easy. It's not easy to fall into all the consumerism. It's all around you all the time. And to be the guy that stands out and does difficult things, you're on an island on your own. Do you feel like you have a strong support structure? What is your friend group like? Are they also in this mindset? Or are you do you have to like fight against maybe more of, hey, let's go to the bar, let's go drink, or let's go, do cake night, or what the fuck people do these days?
Yeah.
What is that like for you?
Yeah, it used to be, let's go to the bar. Mid-20s, I mean, just raged at the bar, right? I'd still hit the gym, but it was more of, well, I don't want to be scrawny, kind of hitting the gym. Now it's, I mean, the closest friends that I have, they're hitting the gym. Like, I'll call them up, hey, I'm at the gym right now. I'm like, hey, man, kill it. You know what I mean? They're doing the healthy things. And I think it comes with, at a certain age, you reach this maturity level, and you just know, like, if you don't start doing this stuff now, you can't start 10 years down the road because it's going to be that much harder, right? And you get people that depend on you. So, yeah, everybody that I interact with that, I consider a close friend, I don't know that they're doing it at the level that I'm doing it. I'm not saying that to brag or anything, but they're doing it at a pretty reasonable level where, like, most of my life, I didn't do it at that level, right?
If your friends are working out, you're going to work out. If you're being healthy and your people in your inner circle are being healthy, you're going to be healthy.
Yep.
If your inner circle is getting lazy and sloppy, you're going to also be lazy and sloppy.
Yeah. Or it's time to move on.
And it's not easy.
It's not.
Because sometimes you grow up with people or you know people for a long time and you don't want to feel like you're leaving them behind. But in the process, maybe they're holding you back.
Yeah.
True
story.
The people that maybe you used to drink with a lot, that used to be really good friends, that you have amazing stories to share together, maybe they're not the best for you. But how do you tell them? Like, hey, bro, maybe I got to move on. It's not easy.
No, it's not. I think, if we're both very busy guys, we've got a lot going on. If I think naturally, if they're still doing those things, they're not on the same sort of clock as you are. So you might be conveniently inconvenient for them, with your schedule, and it just doesn't work. But it is tough. There's no like right or wrong way to, be friends with somebody for a long time and tell them, hey, because you're doing these things, we can't hang out. It's tough, right? So I think spending more time with the friends that are doing the things that you see that are valuable, that are investing in themselves, that are taking care of themselves, they're taking care of their family, you're seeing them have huge wins. Those are the guys that, you want to have over at your barbecue or at your son's birthday party. You're not going to the club. You're just not. Maybe on a whim, you'll hit a hotel bar on New Year's or something, But in terms of just like looking forward to the Friday or Saturday night, it's just not something that.
Not anymore.
No, I mean, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money.
It is. I haven't had a drink in 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
That's a long time.
That is
I
a
used
long
to drink
time.
almost every night.
I did too.
4 years, I haven't had a drink. And now I don't even think about it.
That's impressive.
But because of that, I'm not like, oh, it's Friday night. I got to go do something. I got to
Right.
go hang out. Because there's nothing happening on Friday night except drinking.
Yeah.
Same thing with Saturday night. And all of a sudden, I've added a complete full day of being able to be productive to my life just by cutting out Friday night. Because Friday night you drink, Saturday night's recovery day.
Exact recovery day.
As you get older, it's Saturday, Sunday, and maybe Monday's recovery day.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And depending on how hard you go.
Yeah. 35 is not like 25.
Correct. But you cut that out, all of a sudden, you have more time to yourself. You have more time to your life. If you spend, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm so busy. How do I start a second career? Or how do I have a second job? And if you look at their schedule, they're like, okay, I get home at 5 o'clock. I drink 5 beers. I watch 3 hours of sports. I watch 2 hours of Netflix, and then I go to sleep. Like, bro, That's a lot of fucking time. You spent more time drinking, playing video games, watching TV than you actually did real work. Because the reality is that guy, when he works in the daytime, he's only working 3 hours of the 8 hours anyway.
By the way, I'm still playing video games a little bit, just so you know. I'm still a big kid at heart.
But the reality is that there's plenty of time out there to get your stuff done and add new projects in.
Yep.
You don't have to sacrifice your family in order to do it. You just have to cut out the things that don't really matter.
Exactly.
You know, and it's not easy. It's, again, day one is tough. You're like, damn, I really want to catch up on that episode. You know, day two, like, oh, it's been like 3 days since I had a drink. Like, I really want that. But once you get clarity, once you start to focus in, and once the discipline builds, all of a sudden you don't even miss it anymore.
You don't. Yeah. You were looking forward to waking up the next day because of all the work you put in the following week and feeling alive and refreshed and energized than waking up and having just a massive hangover and then not doing shit the next day. Like, it is a waste of time.
I do not miss hangovers one bit.
Yeah. I'll second that.
Well, thank you for coming out today, Grant.
Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate you. If there's anything you want to plug while you're here, if you want to drop some knowledge on people.
Yeah, sure. You can check out our 3D printed carbon fiber wheelchair at myREability.com. If you need a Porsche, come see me, HennessyPorsche.com. And Instagram GVB_7.
We will put all of that in the description. Definitely go check them out. Maybe we'll buy a Porsche soon.
Yeah, come see me.
Thank you, Grant. Appreciate it.
Thank you, brother.
Awesome. Yeah. Good job, buddy.
Thanks, brother. Yeah.
That was good.
Good?
Yeah.
That was fun.